The doorbell rang at precisely 7:43 p.m. Mark Wilson froze, spatula in hand, pancake batter dripping onto the kitchen floor. Nobody ever came to their door unannounced. He glanced at his phone on the counter, the message still displayed on screen: "I don't know how to do this anymore. I need help." A text meant for his brother, accidentally sent to an unknown number. And now, somehow, someone was at his door. If you're enjoying this story so far, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more heartwarming content that will touch your soul. Your support means everything to us. 3 hours earlier, Mark had been sitting in his car outside his daughter Emma's elementary school, gripping the steering wheel until his knuckles turned white. The principal's words still echoed in his mind: "Emma's having trouble focusing in class. She's falling behind." It had been 18 months since Sarah's death. 18 months of Mark trying to be both mother and father to their 8-year-old daughter. 18 months of pretending he knew what he was doing. He'd picked Emma up with a forced smile, listening to her chatter about the butterfly they'd watched emerge from its chrysalis in science class. He'd made her favorite snack when they got home, helped with homework, and then, when she was finally engrossed in drawing at the kitchen table, he'd stepped into the hallway and typed out that desperate text to his brother Jason. Except his thumb had slipped. The message went to the number directly above Jason's in his recent calls, a number he didn't recognize. A business he'd called earlier that week about a potential job interview. Mark had stared at his phone in horror when he realized his mistake, quickly typing, "I'm so sorry. That message wasn't meant for you." The reply came almost instantly: "Who is this and what kind of help do you need?" He hadn't answered. What was the point? It was embarrassing enough to have sent such a vulnerable message to a stranger. He'd shoved his phone in his pocket and returned to making dinner for Emma. And now, less than 3 hours later, someone was at his door. Alexandra Chen had been in the middle of a board meeting when the text came through. Normally, she would never check her phone during such an important discussion, but something, intuition, perhaps, made her glance down at the notification. "I don't know how to do this anymore. I need help." The number wasn't saved in her contacts. Her first instinct was to ignore it, probably a wrong number. But something about those 11 simple words struck her. The raw vulnerability. The quiet desperation. When the apologetic follow-up came, she found herself responding, asking who needed help. No answer came. Alexandra frowned, tapping her manicured nail against her phone case. As CEO of Chen Innovations, one of the fastest-growing tech companies in the country, she was used to solving problems. Used to being in control. And something about this mystery texter's silence bothered her. She excused herself from the meeting, stepping into her private office to call the number. No answer. She tried a different approach, having her assistant trace the number. It belonged to Mark Wilson, who had called earlier that week about a mid-level programming position. Single father. Widower. Former employee of one of her competitors until layoffs 6 months ago. Alexandra sat at her desk, staring at the brief file her assistant had compiled. She should return to her meeting. This wasn't her problem. She had a company to run, deadlines to meet, investors to please. Instead, she grabbed her keys. Mark opened the door to find a striking woman in her late 30s standing on his porch. Her charcoal gray suit probably cost more than his monthly rent, and the sleek car parked at the curb definitely did. "Mr. Wilson?" she asked, her voice cool and professional. "Yes?" Mark replied, confusion evident in his tone. "I'm Alexandra Chen. You texted my personal number earlier." Mark's face flushed with embarrassment. "I'm so sorry about that. It was meant for my brother. I didn't mean to bother you." Alexandra's eyes moved past him to where Emma sat at the kitchen table, crayon in hand, watching the stranger with curious eyes. "You said you needed help," Alexandra stated simply. "What kind?" Mark stared at her, bewildered. It was nothing. Really. Just having a rough day. Dad, the pancakes are burning, Emma called from the kitchen. Mark turned with a curse, rushing back to the stove where smoke was beginning to rise from the pan. He flipped the blackened pancake into the trash, sighing heavily. When he looked up, Alexandra was standing in his kitchen, her designer heels clicking on the linoleum floor. "I'm making breakfast for dinner," Emma informed the stranger proudly. "Dad says it's okay to eat breakfast foods anytime." "Your dad is right," Alexandra replied, her professional demeanor softening slightly as she addressed the child. "Breakfast for dinner is an excellent choice." Mark watched in stunned silence as Alexandra Chen, CEO of Chen Innovations, whose face he'd seen in business magazines, removed her tailored jacket, hung it carefully over a kitchen chair, and rolled up the sleeves of her silk blouse. "Do you have another mixing bowl?" she asked him. Alexandra couldn't explain, even to herself, why she was standing in a stranger's kitchen at 8 p.m. on a Thursday night, mixing pancake batter. She'd cancelled the remainder of her board meeting, rescheduled 2 important calls, and driven 40 minutes to this modest suburban home, all because of a text message that wasn't even meant for her. It was completely out of character. Alexandra Chen didn't do impulsive. She didn't do emotional. She had built her reputation and her billion-dollar company on being calculated, rational, and always in control. Her employees called her the Ice Queen behind her back. She knew this and didn't care. Emotions were messy. Inefficient. She had learned that lesson the hard way, growing up in a household where her father's volatile temper had made every day unpredictable. She had vowed never to let emotions rule her life. Yet here she was, making pancakes with a little girl who had her mother's smile in a photo on the refrigerator. "You're doing it wrong," Emma informed her, peering into Alexandra's mixing bowl. "You have to make a well in the middle first, then pour the milk in slowly." Alexandra raised an eyebrow. "Is that so?" Emma nodded solemnly. "Mom taught me. She said the secret to perfect pancakes is patience." Mark, who had been watching this surreal scene unfold with a mixture of confusion and wariness, flinched slightly at the mention of his late wife. Alexandra caught the reaction and something inside her chest tightened. She looked at the man before her, his rumpled shirt, the dark circles under his eyes, the way he seemed to be holding himself together through sheer force of will, and recognized something familiar. She had worn that same expression in the mirror for years after her father's death, trying to keep her mother and younger sister afloat while building her company from nothing. "Well," Alexandra said, dumping out her failed batter and starting again, "I suppose I have a lot to learn about pancakes." By the time they sat down to eat, Mark had told Alexandra about the meeting with Emma's principal, about his struggle to find work that would allow him to be there for his daughter, about the mounting bills and the dwindling savings. "I was a senior developer at TechSphere until the layoffs," he explained, cutting Emma's pancakes into bite-sized pieces. "I've been freelancing, but it's not steady enough. I need something stable, with health insurance. Emma has asthma." Alexandra nodded, watching as the little girl carefully arranged her pancake pieces into a smiley face before drowning them in syrup. "That's why you called about the position at Chen Innovations," she said. Mark looked up, surprised. "How did you know about that?" "I'm Alexandra Chen," she replied simply. "It's my company." Mark's fork clattered against his plate. You're that Alexandra Chen? The CEO?" Emma looked between them, confused by her father's reaction. "Is she famous, Daddy?" Alexandra smiled slightly. "Not famous. Just busy, usually." "But you came here because of my text," Mark said, still trying to process this information. "Why would you do that?" Alexandra considered the question, unsure of the answer herself. "I suppose I recognized something in your message. Something I've felt before." She took a sip of water, gathering her thoughts. "When I was 22, my father died suddenly. My mother fell apart. My sister was only 12. I had just graduated college with big dreams, and suddenly I was responsible for everything: the mortgage, the bills, my sister's education. I was drowning. Mark's expression softened with understanding. One day, Alexandra continued, I was in the grocery store, trying to figure out how to pay for everything with the $20 in my wallet, when I just broke down. Right there in the cereal aisle. A complete stranger, an older woman, stopped and asked if I needed help. Emma was listening intently now, her pancakes forgotten. I told her everything. Just poured it all out to this woman I'd never met before. And do you know what she did? Mark shook his head. She paid for my groceries. Then she gave me her card. She was a financial advisor, and helped me create a budget, apply for assistance programs, and eventually secure a small business loan to start what would become Chen Innovations. Alexandra's voice had lost its usual crisp efficiency, replaced by something warmer, more human. She changed my life because she stopped when she saw someone struggling. The kitchen was quiet for a moment, save for the soft ticking of the clock on the wall. So when I got your text, Alexandra said finally, I thought perhaps it was my turn to stop. After dinner, while Mark put Emma to bed, Alexandra sat at the kitchen table with her laptop, reviewing his resume and the open positions at her company. When Mark returned, she looked up with a decisiveness that had made her famous in the business world. The programming position you applied for isn't right for you, she said bluntly. Mark's shoulders slumped. I understand. Thank you for. You're overqualified, she interrupted. I need a new director of development. The previous one left last month for a startup. The hours are flexible, the salary is competitive, and you can work from home 2 days a week. Mark stared at her, speechless. I've reviewed your work history. You have the experience. You led the team that developed TechSphere's most successful product. I wanted to poach you 2 years ago, but you seemed happy there. I don't know what to say, Mark stammered. Say you'll come in tomorrow for a formal interview, Alexandra replied, closing her laptop. I still have to follow protocol, even if I am the CEO. Mark nodded, still dazed. Of course. Yes. Thank you. Alexandra stood, gathering her things. Don't thank me yet. The job is demanding. I expect excellence from my team. I understand, Mark said, his voice stronger now. I won't let you down. As Alexandra put on her jacket, her gaze fell on a drawing Emma had made, a colorful butterfly emerging from a chrysalis, with the words, "Change is hard but beautiful," written in a child's careful handwriting. Something shifted in Alexandra's expression. My sister is a teacher, she said suddenly. She works with children who need extra support. I can ask her about resources for Emma, if you'd like. Mark's eyes widened with gratitude. That would be, yes, please. Thank you. Alexandra nodded, moving toward the door. She paused with her hand on the knob, turning back to face him. Mr. Wilson, Mark, what you're doing, raising Emma alone, it's remarkable. Don't doubt yourself so much. Before he could respond, she was gone, the taillights of her luxury car disappearing down the quiet street. 6 months later, Mark sat in his new office at Chen Innovations, a framed butterfly drawing hanging on the wall behind his desk. His team had just successfully launched a new product, ahead of schedule and under budget. His phone buzzed with a text message. Dinner at 7. Don't be late. Emma's making pancakes. He smiled, typing back a quick response to Alexandra. What had begun as a professional relationship had slowly, cautiously evolved into something more. The Ice Queen, as it turned out, wasn't so cold after all, just protective of a heart that had been through its own struggles. Emma adored her. Alexandra had helped the little girl join a special science program at school where she was thriving. And Mark had found not just financial stability but something he hadn't dared hope for, a second chance at happiness. All because of a text message sent by mistake. As he packed up his things to head home, to Alexandra and Emma, Mark thought about how life could change in an instant. How sometimes our greatest mistakes lead us exactly where we need to be. If this story touched your heart, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring content that reminds us all of the unexpected ways love and connection can find us, even in our darkest moments. Sometimes, our greatest blessings come from our biggest mistakes, and the help we need might be just a text message away.